Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 569, recorded live on Saturday, August 17th. I'm your host, Patrick. Joining me this week, we have Arkat returning to the show.
Good morning, Patrick. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this should be fun. A lot of fun stuff to talk about. We'll start with the screenshot of the week, which was... They didn't have a screenshot of the week. So, you may remember 2 weeks ago I didn't do a show. So this is a screenshot from that week. It is Grumble Gravelson raises a ruckus when denied entry into the Skyway Theater in the 426th screenshot of the week. Thanks, Claver, for sending in that screenshot. Nice bear shot. Bears
Sure.
have been a lot more popular of late. Have you noticed?
Why, yes, they have.
You're even running a bear in Kasplat. So,
Yep.
Yeah. It's good to see, though. Like, right? That's what we want. I mean, there's always going to be some builds that are more popular than others, but you don't want to see
3 million wolves.
Yeah. More, it's like you don't want to see no bears. Like that's not good. So it's indicative of a balance problem. Anyways, we like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can catch us through Twitch, YouTube, the DDO forums, iTunes, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on our social media pages or our website, DDOCast.com, with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we had a couple of releases. We had a big patch that we've kind of been talking about. So we'll talk about that. There's some hot fixy stuff. And then on the back half of the show, we'll talk about, this will be part 3 of our Update 43 preview. Again, at the time, we didn't realize that this stuff was coming before Update 43. We're going to be talking about Reaper changes, really kind of unpacking that. We'll talk about that a little bit here as well as we go through things. So that will be on the back half with Voodoo and Propane. It's just a continuation of the discussion we've been having in the last couple of weeks. Turns out that Reaper changes came in Update 42.4. Who knew?
Oops.
You know, if I'd have been thinking about it beforehand, I might have picked up on that. Because they had said, actually, I don't even know if they'd announced hardcore when we did that part, actually. So, you know, that's kind of a...
Yeah, our hardcore took a lot of people by surprise. It's very new, so I wouldn't be surprised.
It was a little bit of a surprise, and they kept that close to the vest and announced it at Gen Con. And once they did that, like, I knew that Update 42 Patch 4 was going to happen before Hardcore, because why would you have all these changes to Reaper and XP and do them after you start Hardcore? That makes no sense. Like, that would be terrible design choices, and people would complain about it, yada, yada, yada.
Oh, people are going to complain about anything no matter what. So.
Sure. But in any case, that's kind of what's going on there. We'll still unpack Reaper changes and more. And some of the stuff may be a little outdated, kind of like with the XP changes. They changed a bunch of stuff. There's actually more changes to that before you listened to that last week. But in any case, let's talk about game news, shall we? Get into the fun stuff. Update 42 Patch 4 release notes. So this came out Tuesday, August 13th. We're going to kind of cruise through this a little bit. A lot of this stuff is stuff we've already talked about on the show or will be in the Reaper changes. But we will also, of course, give Arkat a chance to chime in on some of that stuff. Yeah. So the first thing is Reaper mode that they have in there. Pretty much everything in here I think we've already talked about. Is there anything you want to kind of chime in on?
I guess really the big thing that I starred on in my notes are the charmed creatures are no longer getting the Reaper damage bonus, and I guess that was to discourage, or rather to not over encourage the people to charm the mobs. I mean, they really wanted to. It seems to me if you really wanted to make it hard, they would have just upped the DCs a bit, but
which they did actually.
They did. So
they also
I guess...
reduced the duration a little bit as well.
Oh, did they? I didn't know that.
Although I didn't. It's not. It was in the Lemania release notes. It's not in these release notes. Yeah, the biggest thing I have to say about that charm creatures not getting the Reaper damage bonus is it was poorly communicated. Because it's been that way since it came out. And I think because Reaper's been out for what, 2 years? 3 years?
Sounds about right. I would say closer to 2.
Did it come out with Ravenloft or did it come out before?
I don't remember
Yeah, I don't remember
the
either.
sequence.
It's starting to get a little fuzzy. But they didn't say that this was a bug until like a year after it came out, a year and a half.
Oh,
like
okay.
It had been out for a long time before I remember seeing anything that said this is a bug.
Oh, right.
We're looking
that's
to
the whole
that.
Hound of Zoriat thing. That's why they closed Hound of Zoriat.
Well, yeah, that's one of the reasons. Yeah, because
that's right.
That's unintended behavior, and I think that was around the time where they said that this was not intended behavior.
Right.
Of course, the question now would be: are you going to reopen Hound of Zoriat?
The answer is yes.
Are they?
Yes.
Is it in here somewhere? I didn't.
That is in the notes. That is in.
I didn't go through this with a fine-tooth comb, so.
That is actually one of in the quest section of 4.42.4.
Yeah, they reopened.
Go look. It's in there. It's in there. So
yes, we'll find it in a minute. The one thing out of the Reaper mode section that I think that I don't remember seeing before was that Fear Reaper damage now scales better in higher levels.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, that was one of the things that I pointed out. And that makes a little more sense, makes them a bit more dangerous, especially at higher level. So that's good, I think.
We did mention before incorporality will be reduced in Reaper by the same amount as Blur and Displacement. By the way, when I say before, you may actually be hearing this in the back half of this show. Just the discussions are out of sync or whatever. But was it Steelstar? Steelstar Severlin, I think, posted something about the idea that that's not something it's something he thinks they didn't really. Or they may have mentioned and a lot of people didn't pick up on, but it's something that they've also kind of not tried to really put out there because they want some of it to be a little bit of a secret, if that makes sense. Or they don't want us to know everything about Reaper or something they want us to figure out on our own or something like that.
Sure. Like some of the raids, they're not going to tell us all the mechanics
exactly.
or how those work. So yeah, no, that makes sense. One other thing that I wanted to point out was they increased the spell penetration of the monsters casting spells at us, and I thought to myself, is players with high spell resistance a thing?
Apparently.
I mean, because it was a novelty. People would be the barbarian and take the enhancement tree that gave you a lot of spell resistance. You were a dwarf and you had high con, so you had to. That helped your spell resistance in some way, or meant that your spell resistance was increased. And so people would go to Ghost of Perdition, the epic Ghost of Perdition, and just basically drop down the hole and stand there while the Doom Sphere just did whatever it wanted to you, and you were able to resist everything. So that was cool at the time, but it's no big deal now. I can't think of anybody that actually builds for spell resistance these days.
Somebody must have,
I guess.
Kind of funny. All right, let's move on to experience. Bravery Streak is gone. It's just hard dungeons and elite dungeons completed. So there's a whole bunch of math here. I actually saw a post. Someone strung out some math, and basically, I don't remember the exact details, but some of it was mostly a wash, but it was slightly better in Epic, I think. Was kind of
right.
It's
about the same in Heroic, and it's slightly better in Epic. That's right.
Depending on kind of what's going on. There was a lot of talk to they released, so more dungeons got decreased because they did Grim and Barrett. So the ones that got decreased were Grim and Barrett, Jungle of Kyber, Litany of the Dead, which I don't think was on there, Shadow Crypt, and Spies in the House.
Yeah, your typical dailies suspects.
Yeah, I think Litany and Shadow Crypt I think were new, and I think they took something else off of that list, and I'm not sure what it was. But at the same time, though, when they say these got reduced, I guess Litany went down by about 1,400 XP, almost 1,500 XP. The other ones were around 1,000, maybe a little less than 1,000.
Yeah, fairly minimal reductions is what I was thinking.
It is, but when you think about it, like some of that stuff, like when you actually run those quests and how much XP you get, right? Like it really ramps up with all the bonuses and percentage bonuses and stuff like that. So,
first daily bonus and so
yeah.
forth. Yeah.
Now, having said that, they also, for the most part, they increase stuff, and they came back and they tweaked a bunch of the numbers. We talked about this last week a little bit. So the idea, and again, in their stated goals, the goal was not to reduce the amount of XP that you're getting or making it harder to get XP outside of one or two things, which mostly was related to running quests and just farming optionals and not completing the quest, and running the same
Wizard
quest
King.
over and over and over and over again. Yeah.
All right.
Well, a lot of these quests actually, I think Shadow Crypt less so than the others, and Grim and Barrett too. But Jungle of Kyber, Spies in the House, and Wizard King, right? Like a lot of the XP from those quests is coming from the optionals.
Absolutely.
But people have done the math, and and my experience so far has been that you're getting more XP running that first time, and so some of that XP is shifting. So if you're one of those people that's kind of going through and running new quests, it seems like you should, at least so far. Granted, this is not a large bucket of testing, but it seems like you should do as good, if not a little better.
Of course, they're trying to encourage people to run more quests, to run more more indifferent content. So this is a way to do it.
And I will say, and I get what people are saying, like, don't tell me how to play my game, but I can also say from experience, like there are people that I used to play with that stopped playing the game years ago, and one of the reasons they stopped playing the game was because essentially the way to do things was you run the same 5 quests over and over and over and over again to get all your past lives. And they did that. They got all their past lives, at least the ones that were there at the time, and it wasn't fun anymore. Like it was. Then what? Like I haven't been having fun with this. I achieved this goal. I have this goal, and now I don't know what to do with myself. And they left because they weren't having fun doing that. It was just kind of a grindy thing. The other thing about this is, one of the common things you'll see people complain about is, hey, there's not a lot of LFMs. There's not enough people running these quests. Well, part of the reason for that is because people are just running dailies, right? They're not trying these other quests. So I would encourage, again, I'm not trying to discount the idea of don't tell me how to play my game. That's absolutely true. Play the game you want to play. That should be an option for you. But having people run more variety of quests does open up more LFMs, more variety for other people to be running stuff. Yeah. And in the long run, like I feel like you're still going to be better off, even with because the optionals now reset on an epic reincarnation. That was not something that was initially going to be part of it. So, if you're just doing epic reincarnations, I don't feel like you're actually ending up in a worse place. But that's kind of just me kind of thinking it over. Because, the other part, the daily bonus has been increased. It was increased up to 40% for epic dungeons. A lot of quests have more base XP, which means on repeat runs where you're not getting a first time bonus, you're getting more XP.
Right.
Some people have said, "Hey, we're getting less XP. I run it on Reaper and then I run on Elite, and I'm getting less XP than it was before." Yes, but again, I think part of maybe is getting missed is that the intent was to move some of that XP from those first time bonuses to the big bonus at the front, right? So you get more for running a quest the first time.
Right.
But you're not, I think that what they're trying to achieve is the idea that you're not getting less XP if you run all of them maybe a little bit less XP, but not a ton. But once you get past those first time bonuses, right, you should be getting more XP in general because a lot of quests had their XP increased.
Right.
And that's before you even get to the whole thing with how they change Reaper XP and being able to run that over level. I mean, there is suddenly so much more Reaper XP in the game.
Sure.
Like astronomically more because you can run stuff over. I mean, you can go watch DDOCast Splat from this last week. We ran the Shadowfell Conspiracy pre-quests, the 3 level 15 quests, and we were getting, I think we were running on like started on R1 or something like that, and we were getting over 1,000 Reaper XP.
Oh, nice.
I mean, it's way more Reaper XP than we were getting before, just because in terms of being able, because we were over level, right? So it was easier in that regard, even with making Reaper harder. So, in conclusion, it's a really big mess of calculus.
Yes.
Hopefully, you have a better experience afterwards. I am so far. So, I don't know, is there anything else in the XP changes, the section that?
Yeah, the optionals. The ransacking of the optionals.
Let's come back to that. Because I know they tweaked that in the patch that we're going to talk about later. So let's come back to that.
Yep. Roger that.
Epic Destinies, I don't think there was anything really new out here. There's a whole bunch of bugs with this that they're working on fixing.
Yes.
Which will probably come out soon as they have a chance to kind of QA through a lot of it. But it I didn't see anything that was really stood out to me in that regard. I did notice that they did not change Meld's description.
Which description?
So remember in Reaper XP that there's now a complete hard cap across all levels that of 95% of dodge. Meld still says you get 100% that bypasses dodge cap. It should probably say something to the effect of this does not go past the 95%. Or they should just change it to 95%, right? One of the two, or just even if they just change the tooltip to say 95%.
Because there's effectively 2 dodge caps. There's the hard dodge cap that affects everybody, and there's the dodge cap that affects people that are, wearing certain things and whatnot. So yeah,
the wording is definitely not as good.
Right.
I will say that my rogue is now actually running in Shadow Dancer. I only ran like one quest, I think, with him, so it wasn't really easy to tell. But my monk, I did play with my monk a little bit in Grandmaster. Boy, it feels like I'm doing less damage than I was when I was in Legendary Dreadnought.
Yep.
Specifically from a boss standpoint.
Why, Patrick? Here's one of the reasons why. Dance of Flowers is bugged right now. You do not get the plus to W damage, depending on which rank, how many ranks of it you have. You don't get that. You're not getting the full damage or any of it actually that you're supposed to get. So that might be one reason why you're doing less damage in Grandmaster than you were before.
And, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think that character should be doing more damage in Dreadnought with Blitz powered up.
Sure.
Because Grandmaster has a lot more control stuff. So I was running Project Nemesis, and it definitely felt like I was doing less damage than when I was in Legendary Dreadnought. Well, Grandmaster doesn't really have a lot to do. Grandmaster doesn't bring as much to the table, I think, as Legendary Dreadnought does in a boss that's basically or a raid that's full of bosses, right? So.
Right.
Right. So, but at least I'm reconsidering like what my different guys are running in. My Artificer switched to Sharati, and that seemed to be a pretty good mix there. So we'll see how where we go with that.
Did you make sure to take the tier 5 devastating critical?
For which one?
In Grandmaster?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Because that could be a thing too.
No, I had it.
Yeah, there's a lot of these Destinies. They've gone ahead and included stuff very similar to devastating critical.
Yeah, they kind of even that across the board
and so forth. So there seems like they're really trying to even up things.
If nothing else, I am definitely looking more at there's more Destinies that are available that are functionally pretty good, right?
Yes.
So it's more of a choice and not an easy one.
Yeah, there are definitely more viable choices, that's for sure.
All right. We'll go into some of the character stuff. They did mention that with Swords to Plowshare, which is a new quarterstaff feat, it is intentional that monks still have to be able to meet the requirements for that. Which kind of makes it weird that you would have it so it says it's available as a monk bonus feat at levels 1, 2, and 6. And we immediately went, but you can't get a +4 base attack bonus at level 1 or 2. Yeah.
Sure.
No kidding. The intent there is, if you take 4 levels of fighter and then a level of monk, you could take Swords to Plowshare with monk level 1.
Right.
Yeah, so.
Take your monk levels later, and you have access to it immediately. Yeah.
Yep. Although I think there's a bug with that where it's not working when the Thief Acrobat core. But
right, core 2, but that's actually been fixed.
There's a bunch of stuff they're working on fixing too. Threat generation was tripled pretty much across the board.
Yeah.
I can still pull aggro or people can still pull aggro from a bear tank.
Sure. Absolutely.
We were having fun testing that in raid night the other night. Let's see, maximum hit point for Reaper mode was capped. It's kind of the same thing there.
Kind of makes sense.
Yeah. The past lives are all in now. Nothing really changed there. Pale Master, there is some stuff with Pale Master that they, I think, are still working on fixing. Again, there's a bunch of bugs. I'm not even going to try to list all the bugs later. Steel Star has a list going on the forums if you want to kind of check it out. But Pale Master's in. Let's see. Anything you want to say about that stuff?
I just, it just seems that they reworked Pale Master and what's the Bard Epic Destiny?
Fate Singer.
Yeah, Fate Singer. They really extensively reworked those, and so I couldn't care less about the Fate Singer, but my Pale Master, I'm still working out. What I should do, regarding which things to take in Pale Master.
I will say the Epic Destiny changes, I think, really functionally changes the meta in terms of twisting Epic Destinies.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
And there's some nice ones there's actually some nice ones in Fate Singer, the hymn things that you can put on yourself. Yes. You can put on yourself or others. Like, those are pretty nice. So
yeah. The only thing I don't like about those is that, is that they're active. Well, they're clickies, basically clickies. Now they're almost like spells. They last for 20 minutes instead of, when you had them and you twisted it in, it was just there and you didn't need to worry about it. So that's kind of different, and I got to get used to that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see, items. A couple items got, again, a lot of this is pretty basic. The one thing, Night Revel's ingredients have crumbled to dust.
Yeah, that's a real bummer.
It's about that time. Someone actually one of the devs posted on the forums this morning, I think, and basically said, like, the intention is for those things to crumble to dust at the end of the year, but they've been letting them go a lot longer for no particular reason. At which point I was like, okay, everyone, step back, stop complaining about it, because next year they might disappear in December.
Yeah, and so it would be even more of a more disappointing.
I like how long they last, though. I mean, it kind of makes it worth it, right?
Well, see, that's the thing. You put some time and some effort into it. You'd kind of like to see them last a while,
And they have. I mean, heck, the ones right now say that they'll crumble to dust. What, the end of 2017 or something like that? We're way past that.
Yeah, somebody needs to get in there. Linenbell needs to get in there and just edit
every year.
Edit the descriptions. List, right?
Yeah. We mentioned this last week. Crafting amounts of Epic Slave Lord's crafting system has been reduced significantly. Yay.
Halved. Yeah, been halved.
Yeah.
Which is good.
More of that.
Well, the unbound ingredients have been quartered, and the bound stuff have been halved.
You could almost make an entire item in like a run if you get lucky with it now. So let's see. Bandiar removed from all elementals. Yay. Instead, we're given 20% resistance to slash, pierce, and blunt. That's fantastic. Makes killing those things way easier. Let's see. Quests. Here, Hound of Zorite and Legendary Hound of Zorite raids are once again available for Reaper play. Good luck. We're gonna come back to the optional XP again. Let's see. They do some stuff with the launcher. It dynamically updates position in line if you're in a login queue. I have never seen an actual login queue.
I've never seen a login queue ever.
Although I'm also VIP, so I think you
Same.
get jumped ahead of non-VIPs. New splash screens are now checked downloaded if needed in parallel instead of one at a time. That's kind of nice. What was your question?
I said, you said that if you're VIP, you get to jump ahead in the line, and I asked, do you? And because I'd never see a line, so I don't know if I'm jumping ahead or not.
Good question. Hide guild renown chat feedback is now an option. It's kind of nice. Let's see other stuff. We kind of talked a lot about this as well. The default range of an LFM posting has been adjusted from a maximum of your character level +2 and a minimum to character level -2 to be a maximum of your character level and a minimum of your character level -2. Why is that? It basically automatically puts it in line with bravery bonus or not getting power level or something like that, right? So
right.
If you can still change it, it's just trying to shorten it up. So if the assumption here is that you are probably going to be running quests. The default would be for someone who's level 16 to be running level 14 quests and thereby getting their full bravery bonus. By making it this, you don't have to edit it to be that same thing, right? So, makes sense. Update 42, patch 4, hotfix 1, I guess. 42.4.1, that's what we're going with. This was released on Thursday, August 15th. They did have to delay it a day. The big part of this was actually correcting an issue that prevented users of the legacy Mac client from launching the game. You can or something. And that was kind of the big thing, right?
Right.
Cordovan said that while the legacy Mac client continues to work after today's patch, we are moving away from that client to the Wine client that debuted earlier this year. So make sure to download it here if you have ever run into issues with the legacy client. They don't have a firm cutoff date yet, but people who play on Mac should consider upgrading to the newer client regardless if they can. I don't actually know what any of that really means because I'm not a Mac person, but
right. So Wine stands for Windows environment. So basically what you're doing is you're creating a virtual machine, more or less, where you can run regular Windows programs on a Mac.
Yep.
So what I don't understand is just turn on, just start up Wine and then go ahead and run the standard, DDO Windows client. Maybe there's some minor incompatibilities or issues there.
That may be what they're talking about. Actually, I don't know. Again, not a Mac person. I don't have a Mac. I've very rarely used Macs except in production environments. So, which I'm not playing games on, and we're using programs specifically designed for Mac, which is why we're using a Mac. So, right. So, other stuff out of that they were able to kind of put in there with this. Bravery bonus is now tracked separately across heroic and epic difficulties. This means that if you play a dungeon on heroic elite, you'll be able to acquire the epic elite bravery bonus if you play that same dungeon again in epic levels.
Oh, good!
Yay! I mean, if not, like that right there changes all of the math calculus for what people were talking about with XP and stuff. That opens up a huge variety.
Oh, absolutely! No more waiting until epics to run a certain dungeon. Yeah.
I do not know if that also applies to Reaper XP. That would be something to test.
Sure.
If it does, so much the better. The bravery bonus range in epics is now +4 rather than +2. That's what it was before. So it should be that. Although the question here is, what about epic level 20 quests? Because it was +3 for there, so they may have actually gotten an increase. I have not tested that.
Yeah.
Optional objective XP rewards. All right, so now we're going to talk about this. So they changed this. It is worth. Let me read this note first. All current optional objective ransack has been reset. Players after this patch will begin as if they had not previously completed any optional objectives on their current life. Because when this went live, there was a ton of people getting 0 XP out of optionals because they had already run them, optional objectives experience rewards now ransack at a slower rate. The first, second, and third time you achieve an optional objective, you will receive 100% of the experience. Fourth time is 80, and then it goes down to 20%. On the 8th time you complete it, you will get no XP.
Right.
This is the one place where I have an issue with this. And look, this was a mistake. So, let's not get too pitchforky and torches here. Yes, it does change how you view the whole thing, and it's a massive difference because we were told it was only going to go down to 20%. Apparently, It was always intended to go down to 0%, and there was a miscue in putting that release note in. Understand that, that this happens all the time. There's release notes that are incorrect or don't make it into a patch for one reason or another, or were worded poorly, If you don't know kind of inside baseball for how some of this works, it's not like Cordovan writes all of these release notes or something like that. Like, this is a conglomerate of people writing them and submitting them, and there's a whole wheel of craziness that gets involved in this, and sometimes
it just seems like Cordovan's
mistakes.
main function is just to put them all together and maybe format them, and so I don't know that he really deserves any real blame for mess ups in the release notes.
Now, having said that, I totally understand. This is a big difference. There's a major difference in philosophy and how that works and how people react to that. There were similar complaints about the list of quests that got XP boosted ended up being a lot shorter in what they posted than what they posted originally.
Yep.
That one they kind of said, hey, we understand what you're saying. We posted what we were thinking, and then that changed. I think was essentially what they were saying. So the choices there are: we could not tell you what the list of quests is, or we could tell you what the list of quests is and understand that it's going to change.
Right.
And in the grand scheme of things, overall, look, anytime you need to remember too, like anytime you see a release note on Lemania, they may change.
Oh, sure.
Like, we have to keep that in mind. Now, having said that, again, ransacking to 0% versus 20%, big difference, right?
Yeah.
So
that was one hell of a mistake to make, and it really caused a lot of forum consternation for sure.
And I think that's totally understandable, right?
Oh yeah.
The only place I would say is back off, is take a step back a little bit. Is it was a mistake. It happens. Thankfully we're not doing surgery on anyone. No one has died. Take a step back.
You're asking a gamer to keep things in perspective, Patrick? Holy cow.
I know, right?
The nerve.
Oh, man. Sorry, that's how I think. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a shift, right? In the back of my head, though, like, for me personally, like, am I going to hit? I don't feel like I hit an optional 8 times in an epic life. Now,
no.
That's how I play. So I don't have a big issue here. I know there's some people that they just grind out their XP in the same 6 quests every day.
Yeah.
To which I say, okay, have at it. Just so you know, there's a big bright world out there, but if that's how you want to play, go for it, right? I get bored doing that.
Yeah, me too.
I can run the same raid like maybe 4 or 5 times, and I'm like, all right, next. Like, that's just how I am. So, I'm not trying to knock you if that's how you want to do things. Great, have at it. I'm not trying to get in your way. This is going to get in your way, though. The good news is they actually said too. One of the things that doing this enables them to do is make optionals have more XP to them. And presumably also, do you remember? So back in the day when Crucible, like the guys at the beginning,
Yes.
You could get XP from those.
Yes.
And they took that away because what people were doing is they would go in and they would just do that.
Right.
I think people are actually writing macros to just like go in and just do
Yeah,
this all
exactly.
day long.
The same thing with the Earth Elementals in Bond 4 at the very beginning. They do
Sure.
the exact same thing. And there were other quests that were like that.
Whiz King is I think the biggest one these days.
Sure. Sure.
So the good news here is that this change will functionally allow them to do different things with optional XP. There's your trade-off. So, what did you want to say about optional XP?
No, you pretty much covered everything that I wanted to say. Just how and just how upset people got with it, and the fact that they said it was going to go down to 20% at first, and then they changed their mind and went, and went back to went down to 0, and it was supposed to be 0 in the first place. So no, that you hit it.
Yeah. And I at least appreciate that they were honest about it and said, "Hey, they could have easily said, we looked at it and we decided we wanted to make this change to 0% instead of 20%." But I appreciate that they said, "Hey, we made a mistake." Galargo 30 feet in the chat says, "My gameplay will not change. They can do whatever they want, but I won't change." How about it? I think a lot of those dailies too, right? Like, other than the optional XP, you'll still get a fair amount of XP.
Sure.
And we'll probably find more efficient ways to do it too. So
right. It isn't like there is no experience in the game. I mean, for crying out loud, there's a ton of experience out there. People are still going to be able to get to level 20 or level 30, whatever whether they whatever they like. It's just things they might have to do some things a little differently at some point. So
I think, and again, this is not heavily tested. I think if you're running a variety of quests, you will level up faster in epics, which I think is really where the optional thing comes into play, right? I don't think it's as big of an issue in heroics. I think it's mostly in epics where you're having that problem because you're not, and the epic reincarnation resetting that really helps that a lot. Because in heroics, right, like you're cruising through, and you can't keep going back to lower level quests like you can in epics. So there's some functional differences there, and I think that's where the issue is. The daily bonus in epics has been increased to a total of 40% for epics, so that will further incentivize you. Even if you're rerunning quests, just run one a day, and you'll should be coming out. I feel like you're gonna be coming ahead for the most part. And if you think about it, that extra 10% daily bonus, I mean, they were the quests that we talked about them reducing. They reduced them by like around 10 to 15%. So, and I think the daily bonus has gone up by about that amount. So if you're running again, let's take the optionals out of the equation. If you're running it for the first time, I think you're going to end up right around where you were. The second run, probably not, but also want to mention the base experience of the quest Tower of Frost has been raised from 3,062 to 6,540. Holy cow!
Quite a change.
Double.
Has there been any explanation as to why it's been that radical a change?
Probably because people don't run it. I mean, it's not a popular quest.
For
sure. The loot in there was kind of esoteric and kind of cosmetically neat, but it wasn't like amazingly better than other stuff, right?
Right.
I'm kind of quickly trying to run through this quest that had their XP increase, but that's usually more like maybe there's a couple that are a little over 1,000.
Right.
Temple of Mental Evil Part 1 went up by 20, almost 50%. So, I mean, it went up big. Newcomers went up by a pretty good chunk, but I don't see anything
like
in there
this.
Doubling. Holy cow.
And it's way more than doubled. I mean, I shouldn't say way more than doubled, but it's well more than doubled.
Oh, Terminal Delirium increased from 6,000 to 8,000. And I missed this. Honorable mention to the most deaths on average for a non-raid quest.
This is where everybody dies.
I understand that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's a huge jump there. Let's see. Let me get back to there. Swords of Plowshare should now function. This is one of the best bugs in the game in recent memories. The bug was that if you were raised by animate ally, resting or leaving the dungeon did not exit you from the undead state. You had to die.
Yep.
That was hilarious. They fixed that. You should no longer lose your Reaper enhancement granted hit points while zoning, thus avoiding things like death by Dimension Door.
That's probably good.
A cost Dimension Door, that'd be pretty funny. One of the new Reapers has had his name corrected. I have not seen any of the new Reapers yet.
No, neither have I, but evidently you got to run 6, Reaper 6 or higher or something to see those.
Well, it said that there's some across all difficulty levels and some that are only above that, only above 6, so... yeah. In terms of bugs, there's a bunch. I will link to Steel Star's bug fix roundup, so you can kind of look through those. They're working on fixing a bunch of them. They just need to kind of get through them. All right, let's talk about Hardcore League. Hardcore League is out. The server is just named Hardcore. They considered it giving a lore appropriate name and decided they didn't want to.
That could confuse some people.
Yeah, agreed. So the Hardcore League is a 3-month experience from August 16th through November 15th. It tests a layer of skills with the ultimate penalty for failure, permadeath. You actually get a buff when you log in that says you have 1 life to live.
Mm-hmm.
During Hardcore League, goals are set for players, and progress is based on 2 factors, each with their own ladder. One tests the player's ability to conquer as many quests as possible, and the other tests the player's ability to survive in the hardest mode ever brought into the game. The goals are, so you reach 1750 favor, you get Eyes of Darkness cosmetic, 5,000 is a Bloody Footprints cosmetic, 10 Reaper enhancement points is a special Tattered Cloak, and 20 Reaper enhancement points is a Blood Reaper pet. Those are actually, I think the hardest one out of all of that to achieve is probably the 5,000 favor.
5,000 favor.
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be too hard, especially the way that they've changed how Reaper XP works and you can be higher level.
Mm-hmm.
I think that will be fairly easy to achieve.
The 10 Reaper points, yeah, I think so.
The 10 and even the 20 feels like it won't be too bad. Just because you can, you've got a lot more stuff you can run and get full Reaper XP and being higher level and stuff like that. Obviously, the gear problem is going to be a thing, but if you think about like reaching 5,000 favor, right? You start thinking about what quests you're going to run. It's like, oh, I'm going to go run Waterworks. Well, wait, I don't have an acid ship buff. There's a hallway of acid. This is suddenly more terrifying.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So there's
especially if you don't have a high reflex save for an evasion. Oh, yeah.
And there's other, there's one of the quests in House K. I can't remember which one it is, but there's a section where you have to run through a pair of sonic traps. The boxes are on the other side of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's suddenly a little more terrifying, right? So there's a whole bunch of quests that if you can die and raise, you probably wouldn't really be concerned about, but suddenly are a little bit more terrifying. So choose your quests wisely.
Yep.
Also, you can't. There is a thing where you can only, there's a lockout, so you can only run a quest if you're 4 levels higher than the base level or lower.
Or lower.
Farming favor is a little harder, right? So I think that 5,000 favor is going to be the harder one.
I agree.
Oh, this is a members-only experience available to VIP subscribers and season pass holders. Someone in the chat is asking why, because they're trying to make money. I mean, right?
Yep.
That's the thing.
Yep, that's the goal.
And it's hard to fault them for that because if they don't make money, we don't get to play this game. So
right. Yep.
Do you think that?
Don't blame them one bit.
Do you feel like it's that much of a cash grab? I really don't. I mean, I feel like it's a great VIP perk.
It's a perk for sure. And I don't know that they're trying to get more VIP people to subscribe in order so that they can run hardcore. I think it's probably more lucrative for hardcore people to buy certain things in the store.
Sure.
So I think that's where I would look if I thought it was really just nothing but a cash grab, I would look to the store and see what things are there for sale.
Everything. It's all
Well,
there.
Otto's boxes aren't there,
Well,
right?
they're not on sale right now.
But do you think they'll be there when they
That's a
do go on
good
sale?
question. That would be the one thing in the store I wouldn't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
At least differently from live. You know, I don't care about XP pots. I mean, you still got to run stuff and you still got to not die.
Sure. Yep.
So, if that's the way you want to play it and you want to risk that money, fine, have at it. I don't care.
Sure.
So, FAQ for Hardcore League. Do you need a separate game client to play in Hardcore? No. What happens when you die? When you die in the Hardcore League in any way, be it combat, falling, internet outages, playing the last section of the Shroud, your character is immediately taken from the playable area of the game to the Land of Lost Souls. And there you shall live.
Quote unquote live.
Someone in the chat says, yes, he sees this as a game as a cash grab. Yet the game, sure. I mean, they're trying to grab. They're trying to get your money. That's kind of the whole
They're
point.
a business.
Yeah. But I think there's a difference between like making money and a cash grab, right? Like there's.
There are games out there that are much more,
grabby,
cash grabby, I guess is one way to put it, than others for sure.
There is no way to interrupt this process by being raised from the dead, and certain abilities that promise to save you from death will not function, such as Death Pact. When you die, you will lose your spot on the leaderboards for that character, but you will not lose any milestones that you have earned with that particular character. You will be able to chat, move around, emote, and manage your guild, but beware, there is no escape from death. That manage your guild's a good thing to know. When the Hardcore League completes, you will be able to transfer your characters off the Hardcore League server onto one of the existing normal DDO servers and resume playing them. That is true whether they are live or dead.
Yeah, so that +7 tome all stats isn't a complete waste.
Note though that once you're dead, you can't get back to your shared bank or anything like that. So now I personally am creating a character that will be rolling all of my dice, and when I right before the server closes,
move everything there, dude.
I need to pay attention to that though, because I'm gonna be gone. Like I'm gonna be out of town the week before.
Yeah. So do it then.
So I need to do it early.
Yep.
So and I got on there. I rolled my silver roll and I rolled a 97 right out of the gate, and then I followed that up by rolling a 99 on my gold roll day one.
Very nice.
So, yeah. Oh, that would happen more often. So there's already some stuff I'll be pulling over there. Yeah, should it's a way that you can kind of take advantage of some of this stuff. They do note that incapacitated is not dead. So we're talking about level lockout. All characters, including iconics, will start at level 1 instead of 15. They will still receive their equipment upon reaching level 15, so that could be a consideration.
Sure.
Vet status is disabled. The /death feature will not function on the Hardcore League server.
Oh man, wanted to try to trick some folks.
Yeah, that'd be pretty funny. Like, oh man, there's this cool thing. If you type /death count, it'll show me how many people have died on the server.
Or exactly how many times you've died, or actually you know that already, but yeah.
Milestones. Once you've earned a milestone, you can visit the NPC named Mortality to claim your rewards. You must do that before you die. The ones we didn't talk about. If you reach level 20, you get a commemorative Hardcore League cloak cosmetic. There's also leaderboards. The top 100 characters in favor that are living, and same for Reaper XP. There'll be a special. Also, if you survive at level 5 and don't die at the end of Hardcore League, you'll be featured in a special edition of the Chronicle Player newsletter. So that'd be kind of neat. See, the Hardcore League is available to VIP and season pass holders. What happens to your shared bank when you die? Items in the shared bank will remain in your shared bank, even if the character who restored them is lost. Items on your character will remain on that character, even in death. There is no shared bank in the Land of Lost Souls, so plan accordingly. Good. It kind of ruined some of the favor, right? Yeah, if there's something you want to save for possibly using it for someone else on that on that server, make sure you put it in the shared bank, not your character bank. You may make as many or as few characters as you like, limited by your available character slots for your account. It's all the same. Dead characters not automatically deleted when they die. So leaderboards are character specific. It is even possible for one account to place with characters on more than one character on a leaderboard. So have at it. At the end of the Hardcore League, they will be offering free character transfers for all characters, living or dead. Dead characters will be able to find their way back to the land of living once they set foot on a non-hardcore server. Characters will also bring their personal inventory with them, as with a regular character transfer. Note that normal character transfer restrictions apply. Shared bank items, guild airships, TR caches, etc. will not transfer off the server.
Mm-hmm.
Just saying, if you manage to get to level 20 and you reincarnate, I'm just gonna suggest maybe you should pull all the stuff out of your reincarnation cache, because if you die, you won't be able to get back to it, and you won't get it when you transfer off. So maybe don't leave stuff in there that you care about. Hirelings will function as they do on non-hardcore league servers. So those you can raise. A little weird, but whatever. You can create a guild chip, or a guild and all that stuff. That all functions the same. But note that guild airships and guild deposits stay on the hardcore league server and cannot be transferred off. I would point out too that they will be. It sounds like if they bring this back, they're gonna wipe the server. So
of course,
if you buy a guild airship, it's for this round only. I'm not saying don't, just be aware of that. See what happens when a guild leader dies. They will still be able to manage the guild from beyond death. Arkat transcends even the mortal coil. Shroud kills you. Does that count? Yes, dead is dead. We do not recommend doing this quest.
They should just close it. They should just close it.
You could go in there and run the first couple parts and make an item.
I guess.
So, how can I find out about who is currently placing on the leaderboards? Speak with the NPC Mortality and select Show Me Who is running against the Reapers for Mortality's average dialogue options. Been found in several locations: the beach near Jeets when you first create a hardcore league character, outside the grotto on Korthos Island, the Hall of Heroes as well. Probably a couple other places, but I was in the top 100 in the list and then I died, and now my name is gone. Yes, it's for the living characters.
Yes,
you
don't die.
You're no longer living. I made it to level 5 on the hardcore league server, but then I died. Why isn't my name featured in the DDO Chronicle? It's for living characters.
I sense a theme here.
Yeah. If you're dead, you don't get any bonuses, buddy. How can I receive my cosmetic rewards? Speak with the NPC Mortality and select the milestone that you reached. If you have not yet reached the milestone, Mortality will tell you. Cosmetic cloaks will be automatically placed in the inventory of all of your characters on all your account and all new characters you make after you speak with Mortality and claim either of the cloak milestones. The footprint and eyes milestones. Each character in your account that you'd like to receive these effects must speak with Mortality individually. The Blood Reaper companion milestone. Speak with Mortality and claim the milestone to get a creature companion certificate. You may additionally speak with Mortality on each server that you'd like to receive a certificate for that server's creature companion stable. Note that the Blood Reaper creature companion certificate is not able to be traded. So
bound to account.
Yep. There will be no festivals or DDO bonus days active on the Hardcore League server. There you go.
Okay.
And there's the FAQ. Have you played around on it at all?
No. I've made a dice mule, so I've done my daily dice yesterday, and it's not ready to be done today yet. So, but I haven't actually done any sort. I did the grotto.
Yeah, you will have to do the grotto on a
you
on
can't
a character.
die during that. But I'm going to make a. Oh, I don't know. I doubt it.
It does give you a breath meter.
Well, they also made it a lot less, deep. It's a lot more shallow thing. So if you drowned in that, then you probably shouldn't be playing hardcore at all anyway. So
there is also one other note about hardcore that I forgot to mention. Before I forget. They wanted to let people know that for the hardcore league server only, They've decided that customer service will not be helping people get out of quests they are not able to complete due to a bug or other issue. They don't want customer service being asked to complete dungeons for people, for example, regardless of the cause. We realize that might be a bit harsh depending on what happened, but the best solution if you get stuck in a quest is to either run a different quest or recall out, reset the dungeon, and try again.
Yep.
This is just for Hardcore League only. Kind of makes sense. It'd be kind of frustrating if you had something bugged. It shouldn't have.
Well,
but,
yeah,
you
don't want the people to complain about, well, this DM helped this guy over here, and he got to live, and I got to die, and I had to die, kind of thing. So
it it kind of evens things out, I think. So
sure.
I made it to level 4.5 so far. I haven't died yet. It's gonna happen, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm thinking of doing a warlock, enlightened spirit, fate pact warlock.
I think it's fun, and there's a lot of people playing it, so it's kind of a fun vibe. I don't know how it's impacting the other servers at this point. I didn't play on the other servers yesterday, so it's only been out since yesterday at 1:00.
I've seen some screenshots of Korthos, and there's just a ton of people just running around and so forth. So it's very, very popular. At least it was yesterday. I'm sure it's going to be popular today as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. I have a feeling it's going to kind of even out. There is currently a death message if you're at level 2 or higher. They don't let everyone know if you die at level 1. Thank goodness. A little embarrassing. I was actually surprised. I was kind of anticipating this thing to be like scrolling through. It wasn't bad, and it was actually kind of fun. Aside from the people doing stupid things in chat when that happened, it was fun to kind of see how often people were dying and at what level ranges.
Yeah.
I did see someone die at level 8 last night, which is impressive that they
got
that far. But it was also kind of a, ooh.
Yeah, ouch. Not good.
I'm only at level 4. Actually, at the time I was on level 3. It's like, ooh. Start over, buddy. Arkat and I are in the same guild. There's some guild mates that we have that we're starting a little static group. And my understanding is by the end of the night, all but one of them had died. And the one who hadn't died went to bed early. So, I think it's fun.
Well, all those jackasses that are running, they're doing it all on Reaper 1. So, I just laugh at them.
Running in I've thought of, we were running on Harbors on Elite, and it's like, man, we're just kind of cruising through this. We should do Reaper. And I'm like, wait a minute. I have no ghost touch weapon. If I run into Reaper, it's going to get ugly really fast.
Right. People aren't thinking this stuff through, unfortunately.
Well, but that's part of the fun, is to see how hard it is and whatnot. So, I hope that I'm actually kind of the mind now. I was a little concerned about how much that messaging would happen. I'm kind of the mind that I kind of like where it is. Maybe just kind of leave it where it is for a while and see how it goes. If it becomes spammy, we can raise it, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No, it seems fine.
Bonus days. Bonus days brings you a Champion Hunter weekend now through August 18th. Find all the temporary items with the Champion Hunter vendor. Weird that it's only a couple of days. Usually they leave that open for a week.
Yeah, what in there is potentially game breaking enough that they can only have the Champion Hunter available for 2 or 3 days? I mean, seriously?
That's an interesting question. I feel like they could put a lot more stuff in there.
Yeah, no kidding.
More often, or like have it be, I don't know. Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have a good answer to that. Because it's the cloak and bracers, right? There's a couple cosmetic-y things I think that are only there. Maybe, but I'm not sure.
It is. You know what it is. It's the forever lasting potions. Displacement and freedom of movement.
Which are great, by the way.
Yeah, those are great. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
But even then, I mean, they have shared cooldown, and I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'd be fine if it was just always open. I wouldn't complain.
I don't understand why it isn't.
I don't know. Store news: you can honor your guild, get 20% off of Astral Stars, Guild Renowned Elixirs, and also 50% off of Guild Charters and Guild Airship Beacons through August 22nd. The weekly coupon code gets you a free lasting potion of cold resist plus 20 times 5 with the coupon code resist cold. Might I recommend that you use that on the hardcore server if you're playing there?
Absolutely.
Might be really helpful. Just a suggestion.
There's a couple of quests I can think where it would be good to use that.
Yeah. Let's see. Community news. The 346 Chronicle. If you're interested in raiding on Galanda, there's an invite from Makarto of the Dance Gurney. Mickey wrote
Dance Colonel? Dance Karen? Oh, Dance Karen.
That's
an
exclamation point, not an L.
That's an exclamation point. Yeah.
It looks like an L.
I couldn't resolve that. I had to get a little closer.
Mickey writes about Project Nemesis in a blog post. Yeah, I've been really enjoying Project Nemesis. I think it's a
I kind of like it too. There's a lot of different things going on. Things you have to keep an eye on. I like it.
Yeah. It's also interesting to have a raid that gets easier as you go along. Let's see. Comment: what would be the best way to die on the hardcore server?
In a fire, no question.
I mean, I think it'd be lava diving. I mean, I don't know. Best way to die? I don't know if there's a best way to die. I would say if you're gonna go really for best, maybe like saving somebody else. But I don't know. I can think of some worse ways to die. Like in the grotto. Let's see. The Guild Hall. Beyond the Twilight will be recruiting on the new hardcore server beginning when it opens. It's set up to help players reach their fullest potential by adding a high in-game guild level and sharing the in-game plot costs with the guild to maximize purchasing power of a guild ship. You can read the post there. There are...
Oh, hang on, Patrick. Let's back up for just a sec. I just thought of a really awful way to die. Teleport error, and you just don't happen to have a Featherfall item.
Sure.
Oh.
Well, even if you do have Featherfall, if you don't, there's two ways to get out of that tube. Because if you just go straight down the tube, you'll die anyways. But if you can either teleport out again, or if you float into the northeast corner of that tube, you can get out before you die.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
All right, good to know.
Let's see. Fansite news. We got a shout out for our last episode. DDO Players News had episode 233. They're talking about Hardcore League tips and tricks with Lessa. You can read Volcano Spelunking and Slave Layout outfits from BioBreak. DDO Sunday had Alex and Lynn. We got a shout out for D&D Kasplat. That's my D&D night group. That was fun. They found the Wandering Wyvern, a tavern and inn. And then I made their gear spin so hard. There was smoke coming out of their ears. It was great. Let's see. Fridays on Ice had episode 131 with Baklagor. DDOPL folks played a fresh TR. Bard Life with Doug Glendower set sail with the Commodore. And Shu did some cobbling. And Fredio with Psychoblonde was on the Lannis. There you go. Let's see. DDOcast News. We'll have DDO Kasplat again this coming week. Hopefully, we're missing a couple people, so we didn't do Reaver's Fate. So hopefully, we'll do that this next week.
Yeah, I'll be there this week. So
we're missing you and Fen. It wasn't a big deal. We did some other stuff. It was fine. We even did a Cobalt challenge in the lava caves. That was kind of fun.
Nice.
Except one of the Cobalts died. Buttheads. All right, lightning posts. Fuzzy Duck wrote in, says looking forward to the hardcore server. Think it'll be interesting to see how many of the established vets managed without all the past lives, tomes, plat, and accumulated gear. Yeah. It's a little trickier.
I think we're seeing how they're faring.
Dying. A lot of them are dying.
Not well, yeah.
I recognized that I was building my character. I was like, oh wait, I don't have tomes. So I need to make sure my dexterity is such and such high so I can get 2 up and fighting.
Yep.
It's gonna be hard.
Got to start off with that 15, right?
Yeah,
15?
I did. Well, I started out at 14, and I was like, wait, where's 2 up and fighting? I need to take...
Oh, yes. Start again.
Yep. And it's only a 32-point build instead of a 36-point build, so... It tends to treat hardcore much
It's only
the same
32 point if you bought the 32-point thing.
That is correct.
So I don't have that. So I gotta think real hard whether I want to buy that.
I was lucky because I have with DDOcast and people playing on other servers and then joining the damsels once in a while, and it was on sale. It was like a summer sale or December deals or something like that, where 1750 was on sale for like 50% off. So I went ahead and bought it.
Yeah,
so
lucky you.
That's paying in spades right now.
Absolutely.
You just got to make the 1750 favor, then you can have it all. Yeah.
Sure, no problem.
Yeah. If you lesser reincarnate, you don't get a 32 point unless you have it on the server, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Let's see. Fuzzy Duck continues, intend to treat hardcore much the same way as a roguelike and not have any real expectation of the first couple characters lasting very long.
Probably realistic,
yeah. Make sure to offload your gear and plat into the shared bank to use the outfit the third, fourth, etc. characters.
Yep.
If you have the starter pack gold seal hire, throw there in 2. I don't remember seeing that.
Huh.
What's up with that? It might have been because I created a character and then deleted it right away. Hopefully it wasn't on that.
Oops.
Yeah, right? Yeah, well. To be honest, many of the Pit's hardcore server advice can think of a lot of overlap with newbie tips and tricks. Things to remember: potions, the usual curatives, as well as protection from energy and resist energy. Collectibles, useful for turn-in things. As well. Ammo, especially elemental and bane ones, are good for damage boosts. +1 holy bolts can be crafted at a relatively low level if you make a character crafter. So can runestones. There's the guy in the harbor. A number of stats count, but the easiest is generally having a minimum of 5 haggles. You get a bit of loot. You have to do that before you level 4. That's a good option. Sorry, those cool Uber builds that come together when you hit level 20 isn't going to cut it. You have to get there first. Yep. That is true. Named loot, you can't rely on having much, if any. Still, there are some handy ones. Particularly notable for casters is the tattered gloves from captives with their 13% fire lore. You simply can't find that high in other loot for some time. The Korthos Expeditious Retreat and Shield Cookies will likely be very handy to keep as well, yeah. And store and daily dice freebies. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. He kind of went on, but it's, he says he's liked the concept of alchemist from the hints you've seen, naturally be playing on his completionist character, so she can stay that way, yeah. Option. There you go.
Fuzzy Duck always seems to write in with a lot of good stuff.
Yep.
I'm glad he corresponds.
Yeah, it's always fun when people kind of write in. Yeah, it's fun. There's be a lot of fun stuff there. Good luck if you're playing Hardcore League. Try not to die too much. But enjoy it. It's supposed to be fun, right?
It's supposed to.
All right, that wraps up the show. You got anything you want to mention here before we sign off for the day and turn it over to our pre-recorded Reaper Changes preview?
Nope. Just I think I'm gonna get off and have lunch, and then go mess around with hardcore a little bit.
Yeah. So thanks for listening to the show. Thanks to Arkat for joining me, and to all the contributors for DDOCast, and to Standing Stone Games and Wizards of the Coast, and to Cyber Ears for hosting the podcast. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. If you have a DDO-themed webpage, or you Twitch DDO and you'd like to be featured on our website, you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also hit us up at DDOcast.com for show notes, MP3s, our calendar, previous shows, and other fun stuff. And if you'd like to be part of the show, if you have a comment on the episode, a question you'd like to hear us answer, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss, or you just want to say hi, you can leave a comment, or you can email us at DDOcast@gmail.com. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates on @DDOcast at Twitter. So stay tuned for part 3 of our Update 43 preview, which is now Update 42.4 preview. Oops. And with Reaper Changes coming up next. All right, hello and welcome back. We are continuing our discussion on Update 43, our preview of that. It was on the Mania time of this recording, the week that we're doing this. So we got a look at some of the changes. By this point, when this comes out, there may be some more updates, which we'll keep up with on the main news show. But we wanted to really take some time with some of these bigger changes to really kind of delve into them and dive into them. And just doing that in 1 week would have made that episode If we did all of it, that episode would have been going on an hour and 45 minutes long. We wanted to kind of stretch it out a little bit. So with me this week, continuing our discussion, we have Voodoo and Propane.
Hello, hey, everyone.
So last time we talked about XP changes. This time we're going to look at the changes for Reaper. And I think the best place to start is kind of where we ended, actually. That the big thing to remember here is that the over and under level bonuses for Reaper will be changed to match Elite. So in Heroics, that means that you can run quests on Reaper 2 levels higher without taking a penalty to your Reaper XP. In Epics, this is 4 levels higher. Big changes. So kind of keep that in mind. We were talking about this in Epic, right? Like that's going to be a massive change in the scope of things, in the sense of, I mean, it's going to change how you can run things. You'll be a lot more powerful. It changes how many people you can find to run stuff with. Just keep in mind that means when we start looking at level 26 quests in Reaper, or you can run with level 30s. That's a huge jump right there in and of itself, and there's a lot of people that you can leverage to help run some of these quests. That's going to change a lot of this, and I think only for the better. Now, let's get into kind of the specific Reaper changes. So here's what San Antonio Game says. They want to go over some. This is from Severlin. He wants to go over some changes to Reaper difficulty that are deployed on the test server, and some changes which are coming up soon. We hope players can look at the changes. So this kind of makes it sound like maybe this is not going to come with update 43 potentially. It's a little ambiguous there, or perhaps he's talking about this is something from our test. What's the test server? Mornlands? Is that right?
Lamania.
No, the other one. There isn't a players council thing anymore, right?
It's just Lamania. They got rid of Mornlands, which was the old alpha server or whatever.
So this may be something that's been modified from what they were showing Players Council or something like that. Anyways, it doesn't specifically say it's coming for update 43, but here's to hoping. So he wants to start by talking about the goals for the changes. So here's the 4 goals he's listing specifically. High-level Reaper should not take as long to kill bosses and special enemies with high hit point pools, though they want to retain difficulty. They don't want Reaper easier, but they do not want killing bosses to be... They do want killing bosses to be a bit faster. Thank you. Thank you, and thank you. They want to make it a bit harder to keep everything locked down with crowd control. We're going to come back to that. Reaper levels 1 to 2 should be a bit harder as compared to Elite. And 4, they wanted to shake up the meta a bit. All right, so... You guys want to talk about those goals? Those goals before we dive into the specifics?
Yeah, I got real strong feelings about making Reaper 1 and 2 Skull harder, which isn't going to affect me because I don't play 1-2 Skulls. I'm a mid-Skull kind of a guy. But I feel like Reaper 1 Skull, that's a good introductory to Reaper kind of difficulty.
Sure.
And people love to repeat this mantra that R1's easier than Elite. And there's such an important qualifier that is just glossed over by so many. And in some cases, I've seen returning players repeating this without even understanding what they're saying. Mm-hmm. And that R1 only becomes easier than Elite when you have a stack of Reaper points. And that might be something like 25 Reaper points before R1 literally becomes easier than Elite. By definition, by itself, it's not. It's only when you have a stack of Reaper points. So I really disagree with their decision to make R1 and 2 harder. I feel like that's introduction to Reaper mode. And if you think it's so easy, then start stepping up the skulls and earn some more Reaper XP.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good things there. I think when we get into the specifics, this will be my third-ish time reading through this. My first couple times reading through it was less that Reaper 1 and 2 is becoming a lot harder, and really a lot of what they're kind of mitigating is is they're mitigating more having all of those Reaper points as opposed to making the content itself harder, if that makes sense.
Is that what they're doing?
That was kind of my take on some of this. That won't always be true, but kind of the thing that's really in my mind is limiting the number of hit points you get from Reaper points, gating that based on level. Which I think is really important when you're talking about that idea that is R1 easier than Elite. When you start talking about getting an extra 500 hit points at level 3 or level 4, that's a big difference.
Right. When you have a lot of Reaper points. For the folks that don't, it's not. You're starting out a new toon or a new player that has no Reaper points or just a few. R1 is not easier than Elite.
Yeah, I think the problem is you get all your Reaper points right away instead of it scaled in at, Reaper 1, if you got 10 points or 20 or 30, you get the whole power right away. It's a lot like when you go from 19 to 20, you get all your epic destinies, all your twists at one time. And that extra power isn't tapered in at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a huge binary bump in power due to what you have done before.
Yeah, I think how this is going to end up feeling is that the Reaper 1 and 2 I don't think it's going to change a whole lot in terms of difficulty. It might be a little bit harder, and I'm kind of okay with that. Well, you're right though. Like there needs to be Reaper 1 needs to be an introductory. Like it needs to be open for players who aren't heavily invested to be able to come in and run quests on R1. That needs to be a thing. Now let's back up a step too and remember, and that's why I started here, is we're going to be able to run quests on Reaper at higher levels without taking penalties to Reaper XP. So that does affect some of this here. We'll kind of get in, when we get more details, we can kind of think about how that's going to affect specifically 1 or 2 skulls. I think you're right. I think we do kind of tend to throw that idea out a little bit too easily that Reaper 1 is easier than Elite. I would say the other big caveat is, do you have a full party, right? A full balanced party on R1 when you're getting souls and stuff is probably a little easier because you're getting some of that stuff back if you're really kind of playing within those party roles. But I think the thing that kind of sticks out for me, less from my own personal play experience and more from people that I play with, is this idea that they want to make it a bit harder to keep everything locked down with crowd control, which I have very mixed feelings about, because if you keep twisting the screws on those DC casters and kind of putting them more in a bind and less effective, it already takes a lot of investment to be able to be a really good DC caster and higher difficulties and higher skulls. And when you're making them less effective, even after they have all of that investment and time put into their character, that cannot be anything other than frustrating.
What when I read this, what immediately pops out in my mind is the incredibly long duration of hold monster or mass hold monster. That's the first thing I thought of, and it lasts a really long time. So if they're saying that, we want to make this not last so long.
Maybe I have an experience of that being not lasting as long because we kill stuff too fast, but I mean, it's a balancing game. Like, I understand that from the dev's perspective, right? And I totally am on board with this idea that a really good DC caster can make really hard content ridiculously easy.
Mm-hmm.
And I've said I think I've talked about it on the show, and I've talked about this with these people that I'm thinking of, and I've talked about it on the show, like, DC casting is a really hard thing to balance in this game because it's very binary. If you either succeed or fail, and the penalty for failing or for the monster succeeding, but for you failing to be successful with your DC casting is nothing happens other than you lose spell points. Whereas everybody else, there's not this binary pass or fail. It's for DPS, it's adding damage to a boss or a monster, and eventually you kill it. DC casting, if you continue to fail, you never get to a success, right? And I don't necessarily have an answer for that dynamic. I've kind of floated this idea before of maybe having DC spells have more of a benefit for failure, or like a spectrum of fail. So maybe, mass hold. If you succeed, they're held. If you fail by up to 10, their attack speed and movement speed is slower. If you fail by up to 20, their movement speed is just slower, right? Like having more of a sliding scale of success, that would be a huge dynamic change in that. And I don't know if that's necessarily the answer, but when I think of DC casting, that's what I think of is this binary mechanic, which is really hard to balance. It was hard to balance in pen and paper too.
You look at Whale the Banshee, you kill him or you de-level him. So even if you don't outright kill him, there's some side effect that's beneficial, so you don't feel like you're completely wasting spell points.
Right, but that's one of the few, that and hypnotism are the only two examples I can really think of that have a good benefit for failure, right? Because that de-leveling thing really makes an impact in hit points and stuff like that. Hypnotism, it reduces their will saves, but a lot of the other spells, they don't have that thing. So if you don't succeed, and if you succeed all the time, it can trivialize content really easily. Things just die or get held and die then, right? Like, I get that dynamic. I don't have all the answers, but it's a hard, like, I completely understand from the standpoint of I've invested time in this character, and you're making it less effective, even though I spent all this time.
DC casting is tough and Sharn too. I mean, the DCs of some of these mobs is pretty outrageous.
And that's the only way that the devs have so far balanced that is artificially reducing durations and increasing their saving throws. Which means you have to invest more to be as successful as you are now in current and future content, but you're getting less benefit because they're also nerfing the durations of the spells.
So I like the idea of having a spectrum of success or failure. If they don't get held, they're slowed for 3 to 5 seconds. Even if they just, here's the effect and not go the different degrees, just give you some benefit.
Yeah, there's ways to do it. And someone in the chat is saying it's rough too if you really enjoy playing higher difficulties, but you can't gear up to a DC caster. Yeah, I agree. That's why I don't play a DC caster anymore, is because I like playing stuff on a higher difficulty, and I don't have the time to invest into that character. At the same time, I want to invest in characters I enjoy more.
Although with some of the Epic Destiny changes, I think that you're able to squeeze a couple more DCs out of stuff, so that should help at least the earlier players a little bit.
Yeah. All right, so now that we've spent half of the time we were thinking about just the goals, let's talk about the 20 other things in here.
I got to work on Monday, so yeah, let's keep going on it.
I did promise. You still got like 48 hours to Monday. I did promise that I was hoping to get another Benton, who's been on the show, is really passionate about that DC thing, and I was hoping to capture some of that because I know that that's a big group of players, and that's an important segment of the population is people playing those casters. So I want to at least try to. It's not my experience as much, but I want to try to get some of that out there.
Yeah, we don't want those people to disconnect the game.
Yeah. So 1, creatures in High Skull Reaper have lesser amount of damage resistance than they do now. Not only does the damage resistance ramp up more slowly, but resistance to range and magic is further reduced to match melee resistance. Currently, the damage resistance for melee is actually lower and more favorable to the player than for range and magic. So in the new system, the reduction for melee, range, and magic will all be equal, with range and magic catching up to melee damage. The new formula has the reduction slightly higher for melee, although still more favorable for Magic and Reaper on Reaper 1 and 2, the same for Reaper 3, and more favorable to the players it ramps up beyond that. As an example, the multiplier at Reaper 10 for melee will change from 0.091 to 0.154, and for ranged and magic will change from 0.06 or 76 to that same 0.154 multiplier. That's a lot less damage, by the way.
So if I'm reading that right, you're losing basically 9% damage to 15% less?
Well, so currently, if you were melee, you were dealing about 9% of your damage. And if you're ranged, it was about 7.5%. And it's going to go up to 15%.
Dealing. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and the weird thing here is he wrote these as a decimal. I believe what that saying 0.091 is really saying 9.1%.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we would normally think about it in terms of conversation. If you're a math person, you would, and that's the multiplier, right? That's how you would multiply it and stuff like that. But
whatever you normally would do is multiplied by 0.091.
Yeah, exactly. So this will make taking down creatures with large hit points pools less of a slog at high Reaper skulls. To be clear, the decrease to damage resistance scales with Reaper level. At lower Reaper levels, the change to damage won't be as noticeable. Although going back to Voodu's point too, like note here, like they're essentially keeping it the same at Reaper 3. So 1 and 2 is going to be a little bit harder. It's going up a little bit in 1 and 2, but down higher than 3.
And we're gonna make high skull easier.
In this sense, yes. And keep in mind,
Let's make 1 and 2 harder and high skull easier. For real?
But you get 2 more levels on them now, so 1 and 2, you can be 2 levels higher.
I would also point out that ranged and casters will be more effective than they were probably in Reaper 1 and 2. I don't know. We don't know the specific numbers, but probably they'll either be like right around the same of where they were, if not a little easier, depending on how the numbers shake out. So, but okay, 2. Do we all understand 1? 2. A lot of numbers. 2. The base damage multiplier for hitting helpless creatures will be lowered from a 1.5 multiplier to a 1.25 multiplier. Helplessness will provide less damage increase. So you're looking at a 25% reduction in damage to helpless creatures, which is going to be really noticeable if you're running Dreadnought, because you're already losing like 30% helpless damage there. Another 25%. Now, this is only in Reaper.
The whole monster doesn't last as long anyway, so it's not going to matter.
Sure.
No, that's just gonna like compound.
Yeah.
Those things.
Hold monster is getting nerfed 3 ways at least here, right? Because this is the first one. It's gonna do less damage increase. We'll talk about later how it's gonna be harder to land and it's gonna last less long. Again, my condolences. That's as a character who's one of his primary classes a monk and keep seeing all these monk nerfs. Like I get it. DC and monks are like the 2 most nerfed demographics in the game. So
I play a caster druid. I shed no tears for any of you.
So 3, it will be slightly harder to keep creatures locked down. First, Reaper creatures will have an additional +4 to their saving throws versus spells. In addition, the formula for reducing the duration of crowd control will be tweaked so crowd control duration reductions ramps up more quickly by about 25% at Reaper 10. So that number, 25%, I am a little unclear of what that is saying. It's going to be 25% less long than it is currently, or is it going to be up to 25% in Reaper 10?
I think the next 2 sentences cover that.
Yeah. Well, an example, an unmodified caster level 20 mass hold would be reduced on live to 12 seconds in duration on Reaper 10. The same spell would reduce to 9.6 seconds. The minimum duration of 6 seconds still applies. So you're losing almost 25% more duration than you already have based on that. So, and they have a +4 to their saves. Oof. He also gives an example. At Reaper 5, each saving throw monster makes is increased by a randomized number between 1 and 15 on live. It would be between 1 and 20 going forward. So apparently it's on a spectrum that they get a bonus for. That's interesting. That explains a little bit of my experience of being able to get things to land. Now, this is only a saving throw versus spells. So take that for what it's worth.
So really, then you get your +4 above, plus additional from a D15 to D20.
Yeah.
So you're 4 plus or minus another potential 5 higher DC on some of these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way that he wrote this is a little weird, and
it's kind of interesting looking underneath the hood how they're doing some of this stuff by adding the extra D15 or D20 to saves. That's why there's some that are just always going to save if they rely.
It feels like that randomized number should be going to 4 to 19, not 1 to 20, based on what you wrote earlier in the paragraph. But all right.
Is it going from 4 plus 1 to 15, 4 plus 1 to 20? Depends if they're cumulative. Yeah.
It's a little weird how he wrote it. 4. Tank threat will be increased dramatically. Tank defensive stances, threat increases in Unyielding Sentinel, and scaling threat itemization effects have had their values tripled from what they are currently. Note that this is a larger increase for an Unyielding Sentinel than previously noted. The goal is that tanks should be able to hold threat by delivering damage to enemies when things are immune to Intimidate, assuming the tank has these increases in DPS is smart about burst damage. So they're making tanks more effective, which is good. I mean, there's a lot of things that are immune to Intimidate, so that will be somewhat helpful. I guess
it promotes a little teamwork, a little patience. You can't lead with many shot.
I don't know about Voodoo, but my tank is going to need to brush up on his weapon skills.
I'm really glad about these changes for tanks.
Yeah, that should help a lot, especially for, you as a caster druid. It's a little, you might have less problems. You'd have less problems like swinging a sword in terms of casting a spell that's going to always do damage. Whereas me, I would be like, miss, 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 hit, yay! All right. 5. Monster spell penetration rolls are increased on live by a randomized number between 1 and Reaper level times 3. This will be increased to a randomized number between 1 and Reaper level times 4. This does not affect the player's ability to penetrate monster spell penetration, only attacks on players from monsters. I didn't realize spell penetration was that much of a problem. I think I've been missing an opportunity for my defenses here. I guess you can get spell penetration up pretty high these days.
Spell resistance.
Yeah. 6. Incorporality will be reduced in Reaper by the same amount as Blur and Displacement. I didn't know those were being reduced. Did you?
I
did not.
I didn't realize Blur and Displacement were less effective in Reaper at all. Incorporality
It's hard to see how that works.
Well, as an example, they didn't give numbers, but let's say that every skull on Reaper reduces concealment by 1%. So at 10 skulls, Blur would only be giving you a 10%. Displacement would only be giving you 40%, as an example.
Yeah. I wonder what math they're doing on that. That seems a reasonable place to start, but heaven knows what.
Yeah, I don't know. 7. Dodge will have, across all difficulties, an absolute cap of 95%. No more, Meld will no longer be as effective as it was. Such is life. And that's across all difficulties. So that kind of implies that we're talking about normal, hard, elite, too. So, Meld will no longer be a complete get-out-of-jail-free card for 15 seconds. 8. Charmed creatures will no longer gain the Reaper monster damage bonus. This was always a bug. The damage they do, however, would not be reduced in Reaper as players are. Oh boy. Anyone want to chime in here, or should I get on the soapbox for people that I know? I think the biggest thing here for me is I think their messaging was not good. Because I think Reaper was out for about 1.5 years, 2 years before they said that this was a bug. If they'd have come out within a month or two, it would have been a lot better. And if they'd have fixed it a lot sooner, it would have been a lot better.
There's a tactic, charm a Reaper and let it go do its thing.
Yeah. They're still going to do better damage than a player, but...
The way they word it is weird, because it says charmed creatures will no longer gain the Reaper monster damage bonus. The damage they do, however, will not be reduced.
As players, you don't take the player reduction.
Oh.
Yeah. So in Reaper, monsters get whatever skull you're on, right? I'm going to throw some random numbers out here. These are not actual numbers. So let's say on Reaper 5, monsters get plus 100% Reaper bonus to their damage. Charmed creatures currently keep that bonus. which makes them really effective as a way to kill things. What they're going to do is say that, no, you don't. They go back down to just their normal damage. However, they're not getting further penalized like a player. So a player on 5 skull is doing, say, 50% of their damage. A monster can do 100% of the damage, but without that extra Reaper damage bonus.
I mean, honestly, the only thing that surprises me here is they didn't do this sooner.
Yeah.
I mean, charms are so awesome in Reaper mode.
Yes. And like I said, I think that the fail here for me is they didn't message this quickly, and they should have fixed it earlier. Those are the 2 problems I have with this change. I think it's a change that should be happening, but there will be some things that will help mitigate this too, in the sense that things won't have as many hit points and our damage will be more effective. So they would be less of a hinging point for the quests. But it is still a massive hit to DC casters that are using charms. And as one of my friends said, he loved that charm creatures were that effective because it gave you an incentive to use charms as a thing. Like, otherwise, charms are generally not super popular. Which I totally agree with. It would be.
I think charms are still going to be very valuable.
Yeah, they can still be very valuable. I would like to personally see maybe some things that increase damage that charms do. I think there are some out there, but maybe
does a charmed
more.
creature get benefits from like a war chanter?
I'm not sure where they kind of draw the line with some of that stuff. I know that there's an ability in like warlocks have abilities that your summon. I think summon and charmed creatures get like extra melee power and range power and stuff like that, so they do more damage. You can still build a charmer. It just seems like you're gonna have to put a lot more effort into doing that.
Druid past lives.
Yeah.
Augment summoning. Harper leadership.
Right now, it's kind of limited to warlocks in the sense that like they have a massive bust that they can put in there, and they're in a tree that it's in the defensive tree as opposed to the DC casting trees. I would like to see a little bit more options for players to kind of help increase charms, because I think my friend is right. Like, charms are less effective and less utilized than a lot of other options. Aside from the fact that in Reaper mode they do a crap ton of damage because of the Reaper bonus, but there you go. Reaper toughness is buffed. They will take longer to kill to both compensate for the damage increase and to fix the problem that level scaling was not providing enough hit point scaling for them. So what that's saying is there was a problem with scaling. They weren't getting as many hit points as they were supposed to as you got higher into skulls.
No, this is the Reaper themselves, not
Reapers
the mobs.
themselves, yeah. Which is definitely noticeable. It's like I've done quests on like R10. It's like some random trash mob takes forever to kill, and Reapers are just die in a blink of an eye. And they're also compensating for the damage increase. So that's our damage increase. New Reapers will appear, one at all levels and some only in Reaper level 6 and higher. Expect some new mechanics. Spoiler alert, I have heard that at least some of the ones that are appearing higher than level 6 is some of them are red named, so you can't crowd control them. Although it doesn't sound like that's below Reaper 6.
Surprise me.
I am curious about these new mechanics. I know that I've heard that like a damage circle being thrown out is something that's being done.
I'm waiting for the High Priest Reaper.
Ouch. It could be one. Because Sevlin did say that one of the things he wants to have is a different reaction. Not just different mechanics, but different reaction, right? Because right now, it's if you see a Reaper, kill it fast. Or as he put it, kill it with fire, right? So I would expect at least some of these new mechanics to have some things that impact you makes you want to kill them later than earlier, but we'll see. I think your idea / suggestion there is probably a really good example of that, and I hate you for it. Kind of a pain in the ass. 11. Hit points given out by the Reaper trees will have an upper limit based on your character level. We hinted at this earlier. So every 5 levels, it's 50. Well, that's not true. Never mind. It doubles every 5 levels. So at level 1 to 5, it's 50 hit points, which is funny because you can't actually spend Reaper points until you're level 4.
I wish they would change that, and that's a suggestion I made in the Players' Council forum. They need to change that you can spend them at 2, especially
I'd be okay with that.
considering that we have Keep on the Borderlands coming out, and that's going to be like level 2, 3 content. Like I'm gonna want to run that on Reaper.
1 to 3,
yeah,
I
I'm
think.
gonna want to run that on Reaper, but
Sure.
If I can't spend my Reaper points until level 4, then
well, especially if you're reducing, like the hit points is the most valuable part of that equation, right? I would be okay with that. Reduce those numbers. So it goes to 50. Level 10 is up to 100. 15 is 200. 20 is 400. 25 is 800, and 26 and higher is no limit. So that's definitely going to impact some of those heroic stuff. It will mitigate the advantages we're getting of being able to run these at higher levels, right?
Well, some people think you're just going to change how they spend their points as they level up and reallocate their points.
I mean, at a certain point, especially like the level 4, the first set of levels, like you can't spend enough. You can't spend all your points necessarily. So, let's see. 12. The appearance of lost souls will scale with party size and Reaper skulls. There will be fewer appearing for smaller parties and in lower Reaper levels, which is one of the reasons why I think it was easy for me to point to and say that it actually makes it a little easier on lower skulls than Elite because you have these souls dropping. But if you're soloing, there will be less of them, and there'll be less on lower levels. So I think that will help balance that out. 13. Reaper dungeons now use the same over and under level XP penalties as normal dungeons. We kind of talked about this earlier. Characters cannot enter Reaper dungeon if they are too high levels compared to the dungeons. In Heroics, this levels is more than 4 levels above the base challenge rating of the dungeon. In Epic levels, it's 6 levels as it is on Live. As always, Epic characters cannot enter Heroic dungeons. There you go. There are the Reaper changes. A lot of changes. It definitely sounds like Reaper is going to be harder, as I personally think it probably should be. It always felt a little too easy when it came out.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that people are doing R10s at the beginning, that was before they had Reaper points. Not many, still.
Well, some of those people are just hard-headed and got to go for it.
Yeah.
Some of my friends, I love you included. I think we were doing like R10 Tempest Spine with like 4 Reaper points for most people. It took a long time.
Ouch.
We also stepped in, when Reaper mode came out, we also went into Legendary Shroud on R10 like day 1 just to see what it was like. The second time we went in, we killed something. Yeah, so, I mean, I think, what do you guys think, big picture here?
I mean, overall, I like how they're kind of throttling in the Reaper bonuses as character level. So we talked about that a little bit. Making 1 and 2 harder. It's kind of hard to tell because they're making some stuff better, some stuff worse. But the idea of those individuals that don't have a lot of Reaper points, that are just trying to get their feet wet and get started, it seems like these changes are gonna make them harder to get those first 10 or 15 points.
That's my concern.
I mean, part of me says like, just wait till you get the cap and then grind them out, because then you get the double points and better time versus money, and you get a little better loot farming at the same time. But
Voodoo, you got any big picture thoughts here?
No, okay. I spoke my piece during every point.
Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting to see, like how much harder is 1 to 2 skulls, right? I think we're definitely going to see a bigger change for Reaper 6 and above, because that's when you're going to get the new Reapers, right? So there's going to be a new artificial Reaper kind of barrier, right? Of going from 5 to 6 is going to be a bigger jump because of the extra Reapers. I think these are good changes. Other than the DC casting thing, I think across the board these are better changes, and Reaper will be a better system. I think it needs to be a little harder, personally. If their intended goal was R10 or like R6 and above, like, you guys are crazy, we're gonna kill you, and we're gonna be unfair about it. Like, I don't think they hit that benchmark out of the gate.
You know who I wish was here to discuss these changes to Reaper mode is Arkat. I know he has really strong feelings about Reaper mode.
We'll get him in another time.
And again, as with DDO, stuff changes. If this goes live and after a couple months there's something that's horribly broken, yeah, there's a chance.
Again, I mean, Reaper mode is, for me, Reaper mode is always defined as the DM is cheating. He's trying to kill you.
You know, I like I said earlier, I'm kind of a mid-skull kind of a player. I don't do a lot of high skull stuff. And I kind of feel like this is, it's just going to be R5 for me. You know, that like my incentive to go beyond that, you know, in terms, if I want to be efficient, it just seems like boom, R5. And I'm looking at the number of hit points I get. Okay, maybe I'm not going to step it up until I get to level 6 now, you know.
Sure.
So I have less incentive to try to step up the skulls in lower levels, and I don't know. I kind of don't like that, because I wish there was more of an incentive to step up the skulls in lower level quests, and this just makes it even harder to be able to do that. You know, doing a 10 skull level 4 quest is really challenging, and ought to have.
Have you tried this? I'm curious. Have you done much of this? Okay.
Yeah, I have a whole video series where we did like 8 to 10, mostly 8 to 10 skull stuff in heroics. And I wish there was just more of an incentive to step up the skull in heroics, and it just seems like they're taking that away.
Yeah, that's an interesting. Reaper is interesting in the sense that incentives versus challenge has always kind of been this odd dynamic, because there's a lot of people who, like, they didn't even want the Reaper trees to begin with, right? Like, we don't want to have if there's all these incentives, then we're always going to be running Reaper, and we're not going to want to run other difficulty levels, which is in large part sort of proven true, I think. I think there's definitely going to be like less of an incentive at those lower levels and those hit points things. I think it'll be better in the sense that the challenge will be more where they want it to be and where it was intended to be. I feel like for me, like, I'm kind of like 3 to 5 is kind of where I tend to find my happy place, because it's a little more challenging, but it's not taking too long, kind of a thing. And I think that artificial change between 5 and 6 might compress some people more into that 5 range, which might actually make my experience more enjoyable, but it also might make their experience less enjoyable. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's going to change a lot. I can't wait to see how some of it impacts some things, and how it changes some stuff that we're already running on higher Reaper. I can't wait to see what 10 Skull Tempest Spine feels like. You know, the other thing, I forgot to mention this earlier. So we were talking about how the charm thing is changing. I kind of wonder, does that mean that we might get Hound of Zoriat back as a Reaper option? Because that's why they took it out, was that the whole quest mechanic is charms, and they were getting this massive damage buff. Maybe we'll get Hound of Zoriat back. That could be fun.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. Devs, if you're listening, give us Hound of Zoriat back. Worth a shot, right? All right, there we go. I think maybe we're not going to go into the loot. There is new loot. You can go check it out. We'll link to it so you can check to see what the new loot in 43 is. But I don't really feel like we necessarily need to kind of really go into that in greater detail. I think it looks fine. It kind of fleshes out some things. There's some new set bonuses or new sets that kind of hit different archetypes, which is great. But we'll kind of have to see how some of this lands, right? So we'll maybe talk about loot more when this stuff comes out, because the loot tends to change pretty quick. It's one of the things that Linnabelle tends to change a lot and take a lot of feedback on. So, all right, we'll kind of wrap it up. Anything else you guys want to say about update 43 before we close this topic out?
Can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for listening. You can join us next time. We'll have a brand new topic. I want to thank my guests, Voodu and Propane. Voodu, I've been remiss all day. Where can people find what you're doing, and what are you doing?
People can find me on YouTube on my channel Voodoo Spice, where you can find over 800 quest videos, and raid guides, and crafting tutorials, and fun series. And you can find us, me and Guildies, live streaming nearly every day on my Twitch channel Voodoo Spice.
And your teaching raids are done for the year, is that correct?
We're done for the year. That is a winter and spring thing only. So hopefully they'll come back, in after the new year. But the High Lords of Malkir does host many public raids every week, and our public raid schedule is posted in the Sarlona forum.
And if you missed those teaching raids, those videos, I believe, are available on your YouTube page, right? So if
Yeah,
you
in fact, we have a whole list of every raid in the game except Too Hot to Handle. A teaching raid video in the Guides and Strategies forum. There's a video for every raid in the game, a teaching raid video.
There you go. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to support the show, you can visit our website, DDOCast.com, or you can support us on Patreon. You can also find show notes, past shows, and more on our website. You can also find us on social media and follow us for the latest cast updates. I am at DDOCast on Twitter. If you'd like to join the discussion, you can leave us a comment, or you can email us at DDOCast@gmail.com. So until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate, have fun, and don't forget to gather for buffs.